there is a couple stories developing with Hall of Fame children.
Yes.
In the football world. Let's start with the first one. Marvin Harrison Jr., okay, he was announced yesterday. Now, Marvin Harrison Sr. is obviously Hall of Famer, Indianapolis Colt legend, one of the greatest wide receivers to ever catch a football in the history of the sport. Him and Peyton Manning were a tag team, a duo that people are going to try to replicate forever. Now, his son is a man that we all assumed was going to be the first wide receiver off the board. But chatter got loud because he didn't do anything at the combine.
What?
He didn't do anything in his pro day.
What?
He did none of the bullshits. Okay, he did the medical at the combine. He actually missed a little bit of a media thing because he was doing all the medical. But we reached out to the team, the Marvin Harrison team, and we said, hey, why aren't you guys doing anything? And we were told, we're not track. We're playing football.
Yeah.
Okay. Watch the film. If you don't think he's fast, don't draft him. We're not really. That's just. We're not getting into a 3-cone drill for the next month to figure out how to do this. We're not working on his 10-yard split. We're not working on just a track 40 because you're not going to do that ever in football. He's going to work on football stuff. So there were some people that took that the wrong way. They're like, wait a minute, is this guy a diva? Is this guy maybe high maintenance and everything like that? Everybody around Ohio State says that's not. It's like the hardest working dude of all time. He's been given the game by his dad since he was a kid. He comes in, he's on the jugs machine in the morning, doesn't go to bed till he's on the jugs machine at night. He's in the weight room. His teammates love him. But there was a couple things that popped up that gave people to be like, maybe this isn't a guy you want in your building. Even though his dad, once again, one of the greatest wide receivers of all time. Then there was a report from Adam Schefter that unlike everybody else, Marvin Harrison Jr. has yet to sign a preliminary NFLPA licensing agreement that all draftees typically sign, which would allow his name and likeness to be monetized after he's picked tonight and before his NFL contract is signed per sources. His jersey will not be available for purchase, and he will not be featured in video games until his NFLPA group licensing deal is signed. Now, I am a person that did not sign up for the NFLPA the last couple years. I was in the NFL. Everybody has heard my gripes with the NFLPA. I got tested 208 times in a 27-month period, and I heard nothing from the NFLPA when I said it feels like I'm getting preyed on right now by the substance abuse program. They sent me a text back after I got out of the substance abuse program and said, you good? Yeah, I am. And I hate you. They were deferring payments for multiple years because they thought that was the right decision, which just kept the money in the NFL so they could do interest. The NFLPA has made a lot of decisions in the past that I think have been dumb. So if people don't sign up for the NFLPA, I don't think that should necessarily be used as a weapon against them. Now, from the meetings that I've had with the NFLPA people moving forward, they are trying to be a much more efficient and smarter operation, looking out for the players, and I appreciate the NFLPA. And remember, if it wasn't for the NFLPA back in the 30s, they would be a completely different ball game now.
Right.
They will still run a propaganda video in 2024 as if these guys would, have to work 4 jobs if it wasn't for the NFLPA. But I understand that the NFLPA has a place in the NFL. I understand that some people think it is vitally important. I understand they negotiate deals. For instance, they just wrote my rights away to a merch company with Boomstick and my name, everything that I pretty much created on my own Twitter, and I was getting like $2 a shirt, which is really nice. They're selling like $34, $35. Could do that myself, but the NFLPA said, no, we got you. We'll get a deal done for you for $2 a shirt. Don't you worry about it. We got your back. That added into me saying, I hate this group. I'm not doing it. Now that has all changed. They have deals with groups like Fanatics, which leads me to what we have heard from sources within the Marvin Harrison Jr. and Marvin Harrison Sr. camp. This is not about the NFLPA. Marvin Harrison Jr. will be a part of the NFLPA when the time comes. Yes. What this about, exactly.
Need that from Matt. Need him on Matt.
Barry Sanders. Yeah, he just announced yesterday he's no longer working with Madden.
That's tough.
That's neither here nor there. We do need Marvin Harrison Jr. in Madden, especially now that I'm back in Madden. Would like to throw the ball to Marvin Harrison Jr. Me, Peyton Marv, Pat Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be a thing I will certainly do. But what I have been told is that this is not an NFLPA thing. What this all revolves around is a deal that is allegedly being pitched to sophomores in college who have a name by a company named Fanatics. Now, obviously, Fanatics is involved in everything. Everywhere, everything. They even hosted the event that the WWE had at WrestleMania. Yeah. It was a Fanatics event. Fanatics does the jerseys for basically every league. They do the hats for every league. They also do cards and collectibles and things like that. I guess there was an offer made to Marvin Harrison Jr. whenever he was a sophomore in college, which has happened to a lot of guys, where if you sign it for a card deal, an autograph deal, it's for 4 years. So it goes all the way into like your second year in the NFL. Marvin Harrison, who doesn't need the money, said, we're not taking that deal. We're not signing that deal. So allegedly what's been happening behind the scenes is a potential tiff or beef between Fanatics and the Marvin Harrison camp. Now, can that be settled? We hope so. But what Marvin Harrison Jr.'s camp is saying, my price as a sophomore in high school is nowhere near the same as a rookie in the NFL or a second year in the NFL. And although a lot of other college student athletes are taking this deal, we did not take this deal. So the holdup with the NFLPA deal is actually a holdup with a Fanatics operation that's taking place. And that is kind of being misrepresented, seemingly, in some of the conversations that are happening around it. So what we have been told is the price of Marvin Harrison Jr. as a rookie in second year in the NFL is not the same as him as a sophomore in college. And there's a lot of people that signed that deal, and this will hopefully get worked out. Fanatics is allegedly telling some folks that they have a deal, they don't have a deal with Marvin, telling others not to work. So there's a lot of behind-the-scenes shit happening business-wise. And I think what people need to remember is, like, Marvin Harrison Sr. has been there, done that with all this shit. The Combine, the Pro Day, this particular deal. He's like, I understand this might work for other people, but for us, we're about ball.
Yeah.
And if you want to do a good deal, we'll do a deal. But we're not just signing up for shit that everybody else has signed up just because everybody else has signed up for it. So this will get settled, hopefully. This will get handled. And I don't think it's as big of a deal as people are making it. But there's a lot of other student human athletes who signed these deals that locked in their rights for 4 years. Their price is vastly different, who are having remorse for signing that deal, which takes us back to the NIL thing, where we need people regulating, monitoring the contracts that are being signed, where these guys are getting actual contracts for their actual value. And anytime you hear somebody say there needs to be guardrails on this, the first reaction from agents and players and family is, oh, you don't want these guys to make any money. You want the football and the schools to make money. It's like, no, I don't want these guys to sign terrible deals that lock them into a 4-year deal when their worth might be 6x that, as opposed to what it was when they initially signed a deal. So I think this is a great depiction of what's going on in NIL right now, what could happen, and hopefully it'll be a great example of something we can all learn from. Now, to clarify that, I hope they get a deal done.
Yeah, of course.
I would like an autographed Marvin Harrison Jr. card.
Sure.
Especially as an Arizona Cardinal. But just because everybody else is signing their rights away doesn't mean Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to do that. And I think this is a good message to the future college athletes. You don't have to do it either. So whenever they offer a little bit of an upfront worth of money for you to sign a deal, don't necessarily have to take that money. Even though it looks good, there's going to be more money later if you have enough confidence in yourself for it to make it. This is kind of what college football, NIL, is kind of at a tipping point. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be the face of hopefully some change for the future.
Yeah, like it's almost necessary for this to happen with a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. because if it didn't, it feels like it makes headlines and it just falls to the wayside. Like there's the lineman from Florida who signed away while he was at Florida 25% of his future earnings forever.
He's not the only one.
No, yeah, exactly. But because it wasn't a
forever,
forever.
Wow.
And he was a day 2 pick to the Chicago Bears. Like it wasn't as if this guy is an undrafted free agent. Like this is SEC football, gonna play in the NFL, and that happened. But again, kind of forgotten about with Marvin Harrison Jr. You can't ignore it. I mean, this guy has been, a top 5 pick basically since he stepped into college football, and now this is one of those things where future teams like Travis Hunter, for instance, next year when he comes in, and he's going to be one of those guys who's at the top. That hey, instead of just blindly signing an NFLPA deal like you just mentioned, where you're getting 50 cents a shirt, even though it's all because of who you are and you're not reaping the benefits of your work on the field. Like if it wasn't for Marvin in this situation, then there probably would be a lot more tomfoolery going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, you got to be who you can afford to be, obviously.
Yeah.
And if you're going to bet on yourself, you bet on yourself. And I think some guys that's in the position like Marv is, with his dad being who he is, they don't need no money. So he can bet on himself and don't have to sign the card deal that's going to lock him in for 4 years.
I don't think it should even be allowed.
No.
Is my thing. I don't
After
think
college, it should be a whole new deal.
Yeah, bingo. Yeah, like this is Ohio State deal. But I guess this is just the new... This is just what it is. Like, hey, yeah, first 2 years in the NFL, last 2 years in college, we'll kind of lock this in. We want to be partners and everything like that. But the rate you have, and this goes to people negotiating, you need to negotiate either an opt-out in there after you leave college or an escalator. If it sells a certain amount of things, it's like, which adds into it even more so. Like with the NIL deals, we need somebody to, hey, here's the structure, here's how this goes. Because you're talking about, and Marvin Harrison Jr. is different because of his dad. But like, and I just say me because I'm just talking about from my particular standpoint. If Tim McAfee and Sally McAfee, and let's say I was a quarterback and I was a good one, Tim McAfee and Sally McAfee were offered $100,000 when I was a sophomore in college. And that is 3x what my family made annually growing up this entire time. We're taking that deal. Yeah, Tim McAfee's looking at me like, yeah, what's ramifications later? Who gives a shit? We got $100,000 right now. We got out of debt, and it's like all of a sudden you're locking into a deal because you get the for show money right now, and you're getting screwed money later, and it's like all these things are what we're talking about whenever we say there needs to be guardrails because we need to protect people from signing away their rights. And I'm not saying Fanatics is taking advantage of anybody. This is probably what they feel like is a good deal. Yeah. But Marvin Harrison's thinking this is not a good deal and I'm not signing it. And they're saying it's kind of being held against them in the back end for other businesses. And now it's being portrayed in a certain way. So it's like, there's a lot of moving pieces of this, but I think with this big of a name, this high profile of a company too, with Fanatics and NFLPA being involved, maybe we'll be able to figure some shit out for the future.
Yeah, you guys are talking about how that shouldn't even be allowed, and the one that Connor was talking about, the Florida D tackle that went, it was 15% of pre-tax earnings for the next 25 years in exchange for a one-time payment of $430,000, but they're saying, like, there's a legislator in Florida saying that's against the law actually for the NIL rules in Florida. So like, yes, there needs to be guardrails legally, the NCAA, everything, so that these
also
kids,
education.
Yes,
like a whole education
how to do
process.
Deals, like even just the
because
idea.
if you're not,
they need a players association,
which is going to be so UAB I guess started one, and athletes.org started one. It's like, okay, that's awesome, but what if the person running it is a scam?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like who are the people that are going to be able to handle all? Who do you trust? You literally, because you got people that don't know shit. It's only like if you think about what Translator did to Shohei. What was his name? Ipe Matsuhara. Okay, and they're tracking that money now, and that's going to be a story forever. He was a hustler. Okay, let's just say what it is. He's a hustler, found his mark, found his fish, and he hustled the shit out of Shohei Ohtani. All you need is a couple of those to prey on 18, 19-year-old kids who come from not a lot, which high majority of people that are playing in college football don't come from a lot of shit. And it's like, all you need is a couple of those, and then you could just hustle people out of millions of dollars.
Yeah, and it's nothing new. And I'm glad that it's a big fish like Marv and the Harrison family that's kind of hopefully changing some of these things. So, NFL and NFLPA, you would hope that they would want to straighten this out as soon as possible and get it going in the right direction. But it's something that's kind of been happening behind the scenes forever. You get a bag dropped on you. Most kids don't know what actually comes with that. Sometimes before it wasn't a contract. It was just like, hey, you're going to sign with this agent or you're going to sign with this agency. So it's like you see a lot of guys show up to the draft with, jewelry or chains or watch, like, damn, it's not even drafted yet. How this kid got money? It's because the agent, whoever, have already dropped $500, $1 million on it because they know it's guaranteed. Hey, they're going top 5, top 6, top 10 or whatever. So I'm glad to see these kind of, and it's got to be a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. who's coming from it. You mentioned don't need the money. Don't need that $100,000 up front. It's hard to turn that down. Anybody, but especially a 20, 21-year-old kid.
And basketball's been doing this a long time, I think, like teenager basketball players.
Yeah, high school kids.
Yeah, they and now granted it's different, I assume, with NIL, but that was back whenever like Adidas, Nike, and everybody was competing. They would just send out these little representations of their company into high school AAU, and then they drop off money. And it's like, hey, you're going to be an Adidas player later, and this is the deal you're going to sign for. And if you don't have shit, once again, it's like the people that they're presenting these offers to are like people who you get real bright-eyed. And when you get bright-eyed and you see financial freedom for at least a short time, and it's a lot different now with the cost of life. I watched Blank Check with Macintosh.
That's right.
And I thought $1 million would give me a mansion and limo and a go-kart track and all the things.
Eat ice cream.
Yeah, that ain't it anymore, especially with the taxing. He said pre-tax 15%. It's like government's taking at least 60% of your shit if you make it to the NFL. So you're getting 15% pre-tax and ending up with 40% of your money. It's like there is so much, I almost said the F word. There's so much shithousery that can kind of take place in all this, and it's like, got to get it figured out.
Well, that's why it's so important that it's happening now, because I assume, too, a lot of these kids, like when you're first going in, they're probably saying, like, hey, he just got drafted, last week? And it's like, don't rock the boat. Just sign this thing. Get this done. We don't need to, have this big snag.
Everybody does
drawn
it.
out. Yeah, everybody does it. Every person does it. But also, like, if he's not doing something like this, like you mentioned, like it's easy to say, like, hey, as an 18, 19-year-old kid, if you're gonna go maybe play in the NFL, like that $100,000, like there's gonna be money in 4 years. But,
You
it's like-
hope.
but in that situation, especially if you come from nothing, like how many kids at that age are gonna, if they don't have
I got a
the
loan
right-
out for $40,000.
Exactly.
To have a good time.
Right.
27% interest on that. That's a terrible
Yeah,
deal.
awful.
Absolutely
And
terrible
if you
deal.
don't have the right people in your ear telling you that, and it's just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. I'm gonna take the $100,000 and I'm gonna have a great time these next
Great
years.
time. Yeah, I am going to have a great time in Morgantown, West Virginia, or any of these college towns. It's like, who's going to stop it? I have no idea.
The difference, I guess, from when we was getting the bag, it wasn't taking no percent out of that. It was a bag, $250K in the bag.
Yeah.
So it's hard to turn down.
Yes, I would say.
$250 in cash.
Yeah.
Hey man, I want to do your marketing. Here go you $250.
Yeah, but then what happens? That's like all those jewelry. I remember Aaron Maben.
It depends though. Some people, it depends on how you do the business. If you do business right, you know you're gonna get it back. It's no real negative and you're going to have a decent career. It's not really any negative repercussion. Now you take that bag and you go sign with somebody else, or you say, hey, that never happened. I never got the bag. Now you may run into some repercussions.
I'm not saying. My mom just texted me. You actually took out 2 loans.
Nice.
Not one. You're right, Mom. You're right. Thank you.
Paid them off though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, pay 'em
And
off.
that was the plan. As soon as I got him, I'm
Right.
like, all right, if it doesn't work out, I'm in debt like everybody else, literally everybody else. And if it does work out, we'll be able to pay this off quickly. Did just as such. Thank God. Had a blast, but I couldn't even imagine $150,000 being offered to me. I mean, they got to figure that out. Legit.
Yeah.
People are praying. Not all agents are bad. I'm not saying that, but there are scumbag agents who are bad negotiators who don't have a moral compass at all, and they're just trying to get in how they can fit and use somebody as a notch under their belt. And it's like we gotta look out for these dudes
Yeah.
and women. I mean, the amount of money being made
Yeah.
in college basketball, gymnastics that's happening.
Yep.
It's like we got to watch out for all this stuff, figure it out, and that's where smart people. Figure it out.